The Picture of Dorian Gray is a novel by Oscar Wilde, first published in 1890. It is a Gothic and philosophical exploration of aesthetics, morality, and the consequences of a hedonistic lifestyle. Here's a summary of the story. Plot summary. Introduction of Dorian Gray. The novel opens with the young and handsome Dorian Gray, sitting for a portrait painted by the artist Basil Hallward. Dorian is captivated by the artist's admiration of his beauty and youth. During a visit to Basil's studio, Dorian meets Lord Henry Wotton, who espouses a philosophy of hedonism and moral relativism. Influence of Lord Henry. Lord Henry's decadent worldview deeply influences Dorian. He becomes increasingly obsessed with the idea of living a life of sensory pleasure and beauty, unaffected by the consequences. Dorian wishes that he could always remain as young and beautiful as he appears in the portrait, while the portrait ages and bears the marks of his moral corruption. The wish fulfilled, Dorian's wish comes true. As he indulges in a life of vice and excess, the portrait becomes a grotesque reflection of his inner corruption, while he himself remains outwardly youthful and unblemished. Dorian's corruption. Over the years, Dorian engages in numerous immoral and depraved activities. His influence causes harm to those around him, including a young actress named Sybil Vane, whom he cruelly abandons. The portrait bears the brunt of his guilt and moral degradation, becoming increasingly horrifying. The consequences. As the portrait becomes more monstrous, Dorian tries to escape his conscience by living a double life. However, the weight of his actions and the deteriorating portrait haunt him. His attempts to absolve himself of guilt only deepen his moral decay. Climax and resolution. In a desperate bid to rid himself of the portrait's influence, Dorian stabs the portrait, hoping to destroy the embodiment of his sins. In doing so, he inadvertently destroys himself. The portrait returns to its original beautiful state, while Dorian's body is found aged and disfigured, revealing the full extent of his moral corruption. Themes: aestheticism and morality. The novel explores the tension between beauty and morality, questioning whether the pursuit of beauty justifies unethical behavior. The nature of influence. It examines the impact of mentors and influences on one's character and choices, particularly through the characters of Lord Henry and Basil Hallward. Duality and identity. The story delves into the duality of human nature, highlighting the contrast between outward appearances and inner reality. Consequences of hedonism. Wilde explores the consequences of living a life solely driven by pleasure and the denial of moral responsibility. The Picture of Dorian Gray is a thought-provoking exploration of vanity, moral corruption, and the cost of living a life of indulgence. Wilde's sharp wit and philosophical insights make it a compelling and enduring work.